world is in peril. The Darkspawn threat is pressing in ever closer once again. A great evil is brewing, a darkness not seen for 4 centuries. Another blight seeping into the land, leaving only corruption and destruction in its wake. Your path in this story is that of destiny. Love and loss will make and break your heart, but there is hope in this ever-darkening world. Will you bear the burden of the light and help save this land? This is the beginning to a beloved franchise, an epic role-playing video game set in the kingdom of Ferelden, a dark fantasy world delving into what it means to be a hero and what sacrifices must be made. Hello there, my name is Red and welcome to Have You Played It? A series taking a look at a game you may or may not have played. So out of nostalgia or curiosity, let me show you Dragon Age Origins. Your first introduction to the world is unsurprisingly an opening cutscene. The mages in their arrogance sought power to usurp heaven, but it only led to their destruction, turning them into the first Darkspawn, creatures of evil and corruption. From the underground, the deep roads flooded with Darkspawn. All seemed lost as the first blight tore through the lands. The kingdom of the dwarves were the first to fall. Total annihilation seemed all but certain. But then the Grey Wardens came. People from every race, warriors and mages, of kings and barbarians. They sacrificed to ensure victory, and finally the first blight was ended. Since that fateful first blight, there have been 3 more. 4 centuries have passed since the last blight, and now the 5th is upon an unprepared realm. The Grey Wardens have dwindled in numbers, and their warnings ignored. After that cheerful reminder of doom, we start in a place most lovers of RPGs are intimately familiar with, the character creator. Here you can choose your gender, race, human, elf or dwarf, your class, warrior, magi or rogue, and most importantly, your background. There are 6 different backgrounds to choose from. Each determines the intro story you play and how you are treated throughout the world. I absolutely love this. Each intro is unique, and they actually all still play out throughout Ferelden regardless of your presence. Choosing your background simply determines where you, and where Duncan, the Grey Warden we saw in the intro, will find you. The implication being Duncan is searching throughout Ferelden to find recruits, and this is where you happen to be. Available backgrounds are determined by a combination of the race you choose and class. All Magi, for instance, can only have the Magi background for story reasons. It would be cooler if any race could be any class with any background, but I understand the limitations of this, especially for 2009, and most importantly, it serves the story of this world. Humans can be either a warrior or a rogue with the human noble start, or a magi with the magi start. Elves can be a warrior or a rogue with a Dalish elf or city elf start, or a magi with a magi start. Dwarves cannot be magi, so you can only be a warrior or rogue with a commoner or noble start. I have chosen to be a human warrior because I am basic, and according to information on the wiki, though the source from the BioWare forums is gone, so grain of salt, 80% of players chose the human origins, 15% elven origins with the elven magi being the most popular, and 5% dwarven origins. I imagine that's why in Dragon Age 2 you can only be a human. Most of us would have chosen it anyway. And now begins the character creator itself. The sliders are decent enough and the choices are more than acceptable for the time. It allows you to create some reasonable or not so reasonable looks. As is tradition in most RPG creators, it also allows you to live out your fantasy of having face tattoos without the societal repercussions. Fantastically, you also get to choose your portrait, which is a brilliant touch. It even lets you basically not even have your character in the portrait if you choose, which is fun. You also have a selection of voices to choose from, but your character doesn't really talk. It's just for battle cries and "it's locked" comments. Note, your last name is predetermined. You can only change your first name, and each combination of race and background has their own predetermined last name. So with a portrait screaming "I'm awkward at parties" and the valiant name of Scrunchy, we begin. Duncan in voiceover lets us know we are from noble and just stock, stewards of the lands of High Ever. We earned the loyalty of its people with justice and temperance. Your father and grandfather once fought for the king against the Orlesian Empire. Today your elder brother sets out with House Calson's troops to serve the kingdom once again. This time against the Darkspawn to the south. As you might expect with a venerated series like Dragon Age, the writing is well done and well acted. Cutscenes are a pleasure in the world of Dragon Age Origins. This cinematic introduction leads us to Alhau, as he banters with your father about the old days, and Alhau apologizes for his delayed troops. Suspicious. Events are moving quickly. Your father, temperate as always, understands as he's scrambling as well. You make your way into the chat and we get our first look at conversations. Due to my 2K monitor, the UI is a little small. I'd recommend finding a mod if you can. I haven't done this here as I try to keep my footage as vanilla as possible. Each dialogue option has a number attached to it, so click with your mouse or press the appropriate number button on your keyboard. You don't speak and your response doesn't reappear on the screen elsewhere, so read before clicking. Duncan enters the good-natured conversation. Alhau is obviously put out by the Grey Warden being here. Suspicious. Duncan hints that you'd make a great Grey Warden candidate, but your father is very much against it. He's incredibly protective of you, being his youngest child, and risking both sons is out of the question. Here and throughout the game, different dialogue choices can at the very least affect the tone of conversation. Unlike some other RPGs, you can't always go back and try other dialogue options, so choose your words wisely. Your father puts you in charge here at the family estate in his and your elder brother's absence. For now, he asks you to find your brother, and we get our first opportunity to take the controls. Dragon Age allows for both third-person and top-down view in a lovely mix of catering to most RPGs. The game is detailed enough that zooming in third-person doesn't ruin your immersion. It doesn't feel like an afterthought. WASD or right-click to move around, allowing for a combination of mouse and keyboard controls, brilliantly opens up an accessible amount of options. These unique beginnings act as a tutorial, an introduction to the land of Ferelden and some of its people. You can talk to various characters in the area, some have basic call-out dialogue, others, like Mother Malol here, you can have a chat with, and learn some in-game lore. Conversations and lore codexes are stored in your journal, along with quests. There are plenty of codex entries to keep the curious satiated, and the Conversations tab understandably lets you reread any conversation you've had, which is handy. At the top here, we can find our menus, beginning with our character sheet. It has basic stats as well as heroic accomplishments, which are in-game achievements and stats the game keeps track of. I always love a good stat menu, I do. Next up is the talent menu. From here you can view what you've unlocked, drag and drop your activatable talents to your hotbar with a nice and easy system, and of course spend points you may not have spent yet. Next is our skills, which is the same as the talents menu in form and function. After that is our equipment page. From here you can equip things and look at your party's inventory. Drag and drop things such as this lesser health poultice into your hotbar and very nicely swap between two different equipment layouts. The current default for Scrunchy here is the sword and shield or bow and arrow. This great system allows the player to set up multiple scenarios provided you have the equipment. The journal we've already covered, so next up is the map. A good detailed map with markers for important people and quest markers. The tactics menu we'll cover later. The main menu has a few settings players may be interested in. Subtitles, which are now on, sorry about that, and the plot assistance setting. This option lets you set your immersion level for the map. 1 is always on and displays all plot helpers, basically quest markers, regardless if the area has been discovered or not. 2 only show markers in discovered areas, or 3 off entirely. It's a nice set of options. Continuing on your path to your brother, we are intercepted by Sir Gilmore. He's been looking for you and was sent by your mother. Your Mabari Warhound, also often referred to as a dog, is in the kitchen larder again, and Nan, the perpetually grumpy castle cook and your former nanny, is once again threatening to leave. So far for a dark fantasy, this has all been very charming and pleasant. Suspicious. As an example of dialogue option differences, I went back and replayed this conversation with Sir Gilmore, instead trying to be a bit of a jerk. A lot of the conversation ended up being the same, but with slight differences of the in-between lines. However, with my insistence on seeing my brother, rather than just immediately agreeing to help out, it did prompt Sir Gilmore to talk about the Grey Warden that was asking about him. Duncan is interested in Sir Gilmore as a potential candidate, so it can pay to query or question, but sometimes the results are the same, especially here in the tutorial. You're barred from leaving without helping with your dog. Sir Gilmore accompanies us. Heading to the kitchen, the hound is locked in the larder with grumpy old Nan threatening to leave. This is our first look at elves in a human noble start. They appear mostly as human with slighter frames and pointed ears. You get to name your dog here too, so say hello to Sir Reginald as you're thrusted into your first taste of combat. Turns out Sir Reginald Reginald was not destroying the kitchen, but rather defending it from these giant rats. You can pause combat anytime by hitting the spacebar, a good idea when trying to assess the situation. First, assign your targets. You can select which party member to control on the left side here of the screen. You can take full control of any party member whenever you like. Your selected character needs to keep targeting each new enemy. You will auto-attack until that enemy is defeated, but you then must target a new enemy or you'll just stand around looking lost or having an existential crisis. Regardless, you're not helping the team. Your party member's AI will auto-target new enemies once their current one is felled, so you can fortuitously be pretty hands-off if you want to, simply controlling your own character, which is my preferred playstyle. Tactics will eventually become a key part of combat, but for now, I ignore them. You get information on what each party member is currently doing next to their portrait to help keep track. Crush the stereotypical beginner's guide to combat enemies, and well done! You've survived your first encounter. Sir Gilmore even comments on the giant rats being the start to every bad adventure tale his grandfather used to tell. Dragon Age doesn't mind making fun of itself and the world, despite its dark fantasy tone. Facing the darkness with sarcasm is kind of Dragon Age's motto. With the giant evil rats slain, you have now completed your first quest. Despite herself, Nan gives Sir Reginald some pork for his good work, and we can move on. We now have our first proper party member in Sir Reginald. You can choose to control any party member when exploring. I'll point out its usefulness as it arises. For now, we head back out and come across our mother chatting. Some more charming chats with the upper crust of society ensue. We move on. Like here and throughout the game, you get the opportunity to continue chatting after the main conversation is over, this time with your mum. Forgetting the charming silhouette I cut and scaring myself for a moment, she also reiterates her desire for you to be left out of the war and the Grey Wardens. Moving on, we finally meet our brother Fergus. We get another light-hearted conversation, your brother cockily showcasing how he and his loving family are absolutely doomed.
Watch over our sons, husbands and fathers and bring them safely back to us.
And bring us some ale and wenches while you're at it. For the men, of course.
Fergus, you would say this in front of your mother?
What's a wench? Is that what you pull on to get the bucket out of the well?
A wench is a woman that pours the ale in a tavern, Oren. Or a woman who drinks a lot of ale.
Bryce, maker's breath. I swear it's like living with a pack of small boys.
I'll miss you, mother dear. You'll take care of her, brother, won't you?
He might as well tell you he's one day from retirement. The quippiness and joviality of Dragon Age is something I consider a staple of the series. This game's best work is done in the writing room. Don't get me wrong, the combat's fun, but the dialogue and story are where it shines brightest. Heading off to bed, the night air is shattered, along with your world, with the sound of pounding. Sir Reginald senses a bad presence, and you're caught literally in your underwear. The castle is under attack. I love the game for doing this. You genuinely have to rush over to your chest and collect your weapons and armor. Putting them on quickly, double-clicking helps, and fight for your life. After dispatching 2 more enemies, your mother rushes out. She recognizes the attacker's crest as Al Howes. Very suspicious. Yes, shock and horror, the shifty and supposed friend of your father's is attacking. Your brother's forces are gone and he's taken advantage of their absence. You rush to find your brother's room, to find his son and wife, but alas, they have been slain. No prisoners taken, no quarter given. Howl means to wipe out your entire family. The dark shift of mood is chilling and grim. A reminder this world is not going to be a pleasant one. This beginning showcases what Dragon Age does best, its tones of light and dark. Your father is still missing, so you and your mother take to the halls of your embattled castle to find him. Forgetting to actually equip mother with any form of weapon, we take to fighting How's men. Running back to her room, you can find some weapons for her, in this case a bow. Additionally, there's a locked chest in the room. Without a rogue or a key to unlock it, this and many other chests throughout the world are locked to you. Scrunchy's a warrior, not a rogue, so I'll have to leave them. You'll have access to various activatable abilities in combat. Dragon Age doesn't skimp on the passive and active abilities, so your hotbar will fill up fast. They cost stamina for warriors or magic for magi. You'll have one or the other. Continue your search. Your mother suggests finding the secret escape passage in the kitchen. You can head straight there and skip a lot of stuff or run around the castle, helping out the castle staff and soldiers where you can. Even here in the tutorial, you will find tough fights. In this very early fight, I'm nearly taken down by this large group. For my sanity, I'm only playing on normal, and even still, my mother is taken down and both Sir Reginald and I barely survive. When someone is downed, they'll get back up after the fight. Unless you have certain spells, but I don't have any of those. Holding tab will highlight anything interactable in the area, a mechanic I adore in RPGs, so score some sweet loot from the bodies and move on. I will say at this point it is a little jarring to save these guards, for instance, only for them to bugger off, not even stay and help fight these enemies. You'll discover throughout your game a lot of people will walk to a point and simply vanish. In Dragon Age it's often rather blatant. The NPCs never even think about using their special powers to help you. For shame. 2 more points of note are around the hold. 1, the treasury. Your mother hands you the key when you're nearby. Inside you find your house's armour and weapons. You're ambushed as you leave the area, as is tradition when finding hidden loot. The other is in the main hall. If you check the map, it's actually where the plot marker points to. Here we will find Sir Gilmore battling. You get your first taste of battling a mage as well. They can be very nasty foes, dealing high damage, so taking them down quickly is a must. Help defeat these scoundrels and Sir Gilmore will let you know your father has headed to the kitchen already. A few other areas are available to search for some minor loot, and your mother will comment several times on the slain inside, but these can be skipped as well if desired. Nearing the kitchen, we get our first encounter with a more difficult enemy. Names in white denote a normal leveled enemy, yellow moving up to red are more difficult. Someone, like shield-bearing Scrunchy here, are good for stunning and tanking these enemies. After finding poor old Nan and the elves slain, you find your father bleeding out, unable to even stand up. Duncan finds you, and your father begs him to save you both. Duncan states he must leave with a Grey Warden recruit. You were his top pick, and would have you in exchange for saving your life. Your father agrees, and sadly, your mother decides to stay by his side, hoping to hold off Hal's men long enough, ensuring you and Duncan have enough time to flee the surrounded castle. With a final goodbye, you flee to Ostagar, to where your brother and the king are fighting the Darkspawn.
We will be traveling south through the hinterlands to the ruin of Ostagar, on the edges of the Korcari wilds. The king's forces have clashed with the Darkspawn several times. There are only a few Grey Wardens within Ferelden at the moment. This blight must be stopped, here and now. If it spreads to the north, Ferelden will fall.
King Kaelin greets you both on arrival. The king is jovial and almost childlike in his nature. He idolizes the stories of old, about driving off the blight with the Grey Wardens at his side.
Then I'll have the mighty Duncan at my side in battle after all. Glorious. I'd hoped for a war like in the tales. A king riding with the fabled Grey Wardens against a tainted god. But I suppose this will have to do.
He is very flippant about the threat and brushes off concerns. Like your brother and family, the king has the I will be dead very soon energy about him. We all know the archetype. Telling the king of Hal's betrayal, he promises to head straight to Highever after the Darkspawn are defeated, to ensure Hal pays for his crimes. Your brother is currently out scouting and can't be reached at this time. Duncan leaves you to visit the camp, and you're now free to explore the area. This area is the merging point for all backgrounds. You'll arrive alone with Duncan here, regardless of race, class, and background. And I've got to say, even though it's a bit old, the scenery still looks great. After quickly leveling up, I head over the bridge, but alas, I came across a problem. The game crashy type of problem. It's a common problem with Dragon Age Origins. Even loading a save game here would crash. My fix was to turn my graphics all the way down, just until I passed into the area properly. Then I was free to turn them back up and be rid of these blocky textures. The game did protest a little with this mid-game graphics change. In the camp we get to walk around and talk to a few people. Wynne here is a Mage, someone you will meet later on in the game. You can sell your extra loot to the quartermaster and even meet someone called a Tranquil. In Dragon Age, magic users can be very dangerous. Any Magi, even weak Magi, can be corrupted by demons and become abominations or tempted with blood magic. This is the justification used by the Circle to heavily control Magi, and why the Chantry are rather against them. It's also why when starting as a Magi, you can only choose the Magi background. Tranquil are people that have basically been mentally neutered. They have no emotion and speak in a monotone.
I feel nothing, as the name suggests. My existence is quite peaceful. I am alive, productive, and no danger to anyone. Surely that is not a terrible thing.
An eerie and unsettling prospect. they're cut off from ever being corrupted. The upside is Tranquil are very good at using lyrium, which is a magic-based substance used for enchanting. It's an innate speciality the dwarves possess, which is why they cannot be magi, as they are heavily resistant to magic. Exploring some more, you can also meet another permanent party member in the form of Alistair.
I simply came to deliver a message from the revered mother, Sir Mage. She desires your presence.
I am busy helping the Grey Wardens, by the King's orders, I might add.
Should I have asked her to write a note?
Tell her I will not be harassed in this manner.
Yes, I was harassing you by delivering a message.
Your glibness does you no credit.
Here I thought we were getting along so well. I was even going to name one of my children after you. The Grumpy One.
He's goofy charm and sarcasm incarnate, a darling to many in the Dragon Age community and a fellow Grey Warden. There's also 2 side quests available in camp. The first is a deserter. He complains of being hungry. You can simply slaughter him for his insolence, or try to feed him. He lets you know the guard has some spare food. Persuading the guard to donate some, you can give it to the deserter and he thanks you. Side quest complete. However, if you push further, you can get the mage's chest key the deserter stole in exchange for some food. If you've already found Alistair, feeding the deserter will also provide approval from Alistair. You can also simply slaughter the prisoner and steal the key once you know it's there. Alistair, however, is not fond of this. Many companions will disapprove or approve of your actions, and this determines how much they like you, eventually either leading to potential romance, at the very least friendship, or them leaving the party altogether. To get footage for both outcomes of this quest, I had to reload and once again ran into the same crash as before, so I decided to fix the problem. I'll put the links in the description. Basically, for the Steam version, you need to replace an executable file, then patch it. For other versions of the game, you just need to patch it as required. It's a RAM limitation thing, which is why turning down the graphics works as a temporary fix. I remember this bug even from my first playthrough many years ago. It's a sad state of affairs when a game won't work properly without outside patching, and a big downside to any newcomers, so be warned. The fix is now applied from here on out. The key we got from the deserter opens a mage's chest, but it's currently being guarded by the Tranquil, so we can't open it just yet. We'll get to it later. The second quest is only available if you didn't start as a human noble. The kennel master of these Sigmabari will ask you for the Wild's Flower in order to cure the Darkspawn tainted dogs. Darkspawn's blood is dangerous to humans and animals. Becoming tainted, as they call it, can have deadly consequences. With the human noble start, you already have a dog, the reward for this quest. Brilliantly, however, you are still able to complete the quest, so don't worry. These good boys can still be saved. We'll keep an eye out for the plant later. It's a neat way for the game to give you a dog if you didn't start with it. After seeing the sights, it's time to move on. Meeting with Duncan, Alistair is given a bollocking for antagonising the Magi. Alistair was on his way to becoming a Templar until Duncan recruited him 6 months ago. Templars are the martial arm of the Chantry, the prominent religious order in this area and the main authority of the Circle. Templars' main job is to hunt down rogue Magi and enforce the Circle's will, so the Magi community aren't generally fond of them. So when delivering his message we saw earlier, the revered mother, a religious leader, used Alistair to deliver the message, which was seen as insulting. It's politics. Daveth and Sir Jory are the other Grey Warden recruits. If you didn't meet Daveth or Sir Jory in the camp, Alistair will go collect them now and introductions are made. Dragon Age does a very good job of catering to those who take the critical path or explorers and compensates well for both. Duncan requires 2 tasks of the group. Head out into the Korcari wilds and collect 3 vials of Darkspawn blood to be used in the Grey Warden joining ritual. Secondly, to search for an abandoned Grey Warden outpost and collect old treaties left behind. They're magically sealed, so they should be intact. Once considered a mere formality, Duncan despairs of their need. Many have forgotten, willfully or not, the promises once made to the Grey Wardens to render aid during a blight. We head out into the Korcari wilds with our first full party. The map is now undiscovered and is revealed as we make our way forward. I also activate my sustained ability I unlocked earlier. When activated, these abilities reserve an amount of stamina or magic. You can see it on the right hand side of your portrait. This shield defense ability means Scrunchy is gaining a bonus to defense and increased chance of ignoring missile damage at the cost of an attack penalty, a great ability for tanks. Unlocking further abilities down a tree often leads to reduced penalties or increased effectiveness. Sustained abilities do not continuously drain, they simply reserve an amount, thus reducing your pool for other sustained abilities or activatable ones. Activated abilities take from that pool, slowly regenerating even in combat, as well as having their own cooldowns. Pretty standard RPG stuff. After taking down some angry wolves, you can find this missionary motionless at the water's edge. Looting them, as is tradition, you discover a note and a side quest is started. The quest text tells you to read the note you obtained. There are several quests like this in Dragon Age, where reading notes obtained is part of the quest, rather than simply giving you all the answers, and sometimes, like this quest, not even giving quest markers on the map. As you can see here, the letter is to this missionary named Jogby, from his father Rigby, telling him how to meet him. The first step is to look for a tree leaning on a ruined building. Moving on, we come across a wounded soldier. You can choose to render aid or not. I always tried to be the goodest boy possible, so we heal him up, and the wounded soldier, with words of doom on his lips, hobbles back to camp. So Jory is unsettled, believing we should go back. If these soldiers can't handle the Darkspawn, what chance do we four have? And yes, Sir Jory's entire personality has a pregnant wife at home and is scared. A dangerous mix indeed. Alistair reveals Grey Wardens have the ability to sense Darkspawn, and not to worry. He's not here to make the job easy, this is a test after all, but he'll ensure we avoid the main bulk of the Darkspawn army. Just ahead we find the wild flower. Grabbing it, Daveth informs us the Kennel Master is after this flower to heal his sick hounds, and is offering a reward. This is how you obtain the quest if you already have a hound, or if you missed talking to the Kennel Master when in camp. Taking the flower, you'll also notice it sits right in front of a tree, leaning on a ruined building. Aha, the first landmark for the Missionary quest. And yes, Missionary quest does indeed sound like a sci-fi adult film, so get your giggles out right now and we'll move on. Ahead we get our first combat with Darkspawn. The foul beasts are loitering ahead. These enemies are the foot soldiers of the Darkspawn army, human-sized monstrous creatures. Slay them and collect some of their blood. A stone's throw away we find our second landmark for the Missionary quest, the Fallen Tree Bridge, macabrely lined with hanging soldiers.
Poor slobs. That just seems so excessive.
Alistair comments perhaps a little too insensitively on it, but gallows humour seems to be the way most people deal with the horrors of Darkspawn. Pass under the bridge, and the submerged tower on the right, the third landmark for the Missionary quest. Next, we need to look between a high, ruined arch and a mossy standing stone. Ah, right here. Walk down the path, deal with some more wolves, and this is the end of the Missionary quest. Here you find a chest left for Jogby by his father with some weapons and a note. A sad farewell letter. To quench down the feelings, let's look at our tactics menu and set up an action. The tactics menu allows you to set up a certain action the AI will take when conditions are met. There is a huge list of conditions available. As you level up, you'll occasionally gain a new slot, and the combat tactics skill can unlock even more. I'll set up a tactic I usually set up. If Alistair's health dips below 25%, he'll use the weakest health poultice available. This stops him from burning through all our high poultices unnecessarily, but keeps him up and fighting. You can dive heavily into this menu when more slots are available, catering to your playstyle, but for now, I'll leave it at that. Now to more exploring. Running along this path here, you can hear some ominous noises. These wretched growls are of Darkspawn, but none are seen. Suddenly you're attacked. These rogue-class Darkspawn can ambush you. They strike first, and Scrunchy is rather unhappy about the situation, as you can see here. This is one of many tactics the enemies will employ to try and take you down. Another is just up ahead. Here we see a warrior in front of us, charging in recklessly. Arrows will rain down upon you from a ridge above. It's up to you, the player, to spot these traps and tactics to try and counter them, though this one is slightly spoiled when the three archers run down the ridge for some reason. The AI try their best, but sometimes they're not the smartest. I do love how the water and some of the grass and reeds have this red tinted texture. It makes it all feel tainted and dangerous, a reflection of the Darkspawn and their influence on the area. A nice attention to detail. Well, not entirely, as apparently the taint will make water float, which is nice and fine. In an area up ahead, you'll find some more Darkspawn around a camp. During the fight, Alistair ran off to fight another group and fell. This is an important lesson. Although I try my best to be hands-off with my party because that's my playstyle, you'll occasionally need to wrangle them due to their stupid decisions. After combat, we get our first look at injuries. They're a punishment for falling in battle. These injuries are randomly assigned debuffs that last until you rest at a camp or cure them with an injury kit. A health poultice won't do. Alistair has an open wound, which gives negative 25% to nature resistance, nature being attacks such as poison attacks. You can get debuffs on a multitude of stats such as health, attack damage, fatigue, and more. We don't have an injury kit, so Alistair will have to wait. Speaking of fatigue, in menus below your health and stamina, you'll see the fatigue stat. Fatigue is gained mostly by armor and a few sustained abilities. The more fatigued you are, the more stamina or magic abilities cost. So an ability that costs 20 with 0 fatigue would cost 22 at 10% fatigue. You can go into the negatives, but this does usually require not wearing any armor, so inadvisable at best, not to mention scandalous. Items such as weapons and armor also have their own requirements. Scrunchy's fancy family shield, for instance, requires 20 strength. I was only able to equip it when arriving at camp and leveling up. The Blood Dragon armor here is a DLC item. You can sell it or wait for the 38 strength required to wear it. In this camp we just cleared out, there's a chest. Inside is a mud idol, which gives you 10% plus cold resistance, and Rigby's field journal. This journal enters your quest-related tab in the Codex. However, you have no quest. This is a hidden quest, more so than the Missionary quest we completed earlier. The journal is in fact by the father of Jogby, the body we found earlier, and explains the father's reason for being in the forest. He talks about a group called the Chasind. They left markers around the Korcari wilds, 7 in total. These trail signs point towards our hidden storage. Rigby was determined to find all the markers and the secret storage before the reported Darkspawn horde arrived. Sadly, we know the fate of Jogby and Rigby too, presumably, but we can at least finish his work. This is another style of quest in Dragon Age. Hidden quests relying upon you, the player, to follow the clues for yourself, and to notice that something's been added to your quest codex. Rigby mentions a marker near the camp under a fallen tree. Additionally, each marker seems to point to one or two others, so let's have a look. On the map, the first trail sign is now visible. Nearby, holding tab to get the exact position, we can find the trail sign. Once activated, 2 more will appear on your map. I'm also a big fan that you can hold tab while looking at the map to show the text of all current map markers. Nice and handy. Again, the quest isn't in your quest journal, so it's up to you to continue the search. We follow the map, grabbing the second and third trail sign. This unlocks a 4th to discover. The 4th here is the last in the areas I've cleared, so onward into the unknown. Unable to cross this tree bridge despite it being called so, we make our way through this swampy area. Fighting off a party of Darkspawn, you can see in the distance another group of Darkspawn are fighting wolves. We take the fight to these slayers of wolves. I was very struck in this fight in particular just how inspired by Lord of the Rings films Dragon Age feels. Just have a listen. The music, the growls of the Darkspawn, to me it's filled with the love of those films. As a Lord of the Rings fan myself, I'm sure it helped fuel my love for this game. Now we can reach the 5th Chasind trail sign from here. Nearby is also another locked chest. Fabulous, as Daveth is a rogue and can unlock it. Except he isn't skilled enough. Daveth hasn't leveled up yet and doesn't have the deft hands, the lockpicking skill. So once again, I cannot unlock anything. I did have his auto leveling ticked on as well. Even if he did level up, he might not have taken that skill, so be careful when checking that box. Leveling up Scrunchy, I unlock the Shield Balance passive skill. This negates the attack penalty Scrunchy incurs whilst shield defense is active. Very nice. It's about this point I'm reminded that the map has no pan around. You're simply locked to the spot and can only zoom. It's actually a little annoying, I will say. Nearby, we sadly find the body of the Missionary Rigby, the man whose journal informed us of the Chasind signs and confirms his demise. Take the will you find on his body and you'll get another quest. This one does go into your quest journal, but requires you to follow some directions. They lead us back to Rigby's camp, the place where we found the trail signs quest earlier, so you can do these quests in or out of order. I simply needed to backtrack. Returning to the camp, a hidden cache is now available under the campfire. A lot of quests in Dragon Age are like this, something only appearing after a trigger or a quest is given. Sometimes it makes sense, like us not looking under the campfire because there would be no reason to. Other times, it definitely does not. This quest, like many side quests in Dragon Age, are a bit more simple and mostly text-based. You can either take the cache or open it, looting its contents. gaining yourself an emerald, malachite, a note, and a quest item, Beloved Amulet, which is unwearable. Or leave it intact and do as the will asks by taking it to Rigby's wife, Jetta, in Redcliffe. There's no punishment or reward other than the cache's contents for doing either option. You can inform Jetta of her son and husband's passing regardless, and to me, small morality missions like this is what makes Dragon Age even more beautiful. You can do the morally right thing or the wrong thing. The choice is yours and it's simply up to your conscience. What do you want to do? What type of person do you want to be? I very much enjoy the decisions. But enough of that, we have another trail sign to find. Nearby we find the 6th Chasind sign. Grab it and mosey on down the hill. In what is always seen as ominous, moving to this area autosaves the game. You'll find out why almost immediately. On the bridge ahead is an Emissary, basically a magic-wielding Darkspawn, able to fling magic at you from a great distance. With my mind set on taking down this high damage dealer, I rush in. Being semi-defeated by terrain not letting me pass and not acting quickly enough, the Emissary scampers off the bridge, fleeing you think. But he is retreating past traps, invisible to our low-level party. More join the skirmish and shockingly, in this starting area I was defeated. Ah yes, that's why it autosaved. However, a lesson is learned and rushing in without a plan is unwise. Surprising, I know. This section in particular teaches you to be more cautious, informing the player that hey, these evil guys can plan too. Sometimes it's best to fall back than charge in again, which is what I do. I order my party to not engage with the Emissary. Simply take out the initial wave of enemies, then fall back. Once out of combat, indicated by your party putting away their weapons, your health also regenerates. Not instantly, but quickly. Standing back, we can see the Emissary returns to their position. This time, I have a plan. A. Don't get caught on terrain. B. Immediately hit them with Scrunchy's abilities, both of which either knock down or stun. Rushing in, we lock the Emissary into combat, never allowing them to fall back and cast any of those memory-scarring fireballs. I have so many memories of fireballs ruining my day in Dragon Age. Defeating the Emissary jerk and their remaining troops, we can breathe a sigh of relief. Satisfaction is your reward and a cheeky bit of loot. The last trail sign is nearby. Collecting it, we finally get a quest journal entry. It simply states, the trail signs of the Chasind have alerted you to an old cache in the Korcari wilds. Not super helpful and nothing appears on the map at the moment, so we'll keep an eye out as we go. Looting a fallen soldier across the bridge, we also find a curious note which ends up in our quest-related codex, under a pinch of ashes and an item, pouch of ashes. The note outlines a story of two lovers and a spirit. I'll sum it up for you. The spirit Gazarath and a woman, Alistair, spend much of their time together. Gazarath eventually falls for Alistair. When Alistair meets another, Nebunar, they fall in love. Taking Nebunar to meet her spirit friend Gazarath, the spirit was enraged, spitefully saying only when Alistair pours Nebunar's ashes on their spot in the Korcari wilds will the spirit speak to Alistair again. She fled horrified, but over time missed her spirit friend. Upon her wedding day, knowing this marriage would bind her forever lost to her spirit friend, and with an act at a wedding observers may charitably call a bit of a mood killer, she cut Nebunar's throat and burned the body, returning to sprinkle the ashes as instructed. The legend states if anyone sprinkles ashes on this spot, the spirit of Gazarath will appear, bound by that promise and grant a wish. A note scribbled in the margins tells Marcus, the soldier we found, to give it a try when they're out in the wilds next. We need to scatter these ashes over a pile of rocks on the overhang overlooking a half-sunken Tevintia dome. So let's go do that, why not? Another fun unmarked quest awaits. I'm sure it'll be fine. Heading towards this campfire, once again you are surrounded by ominous noises of rogue Darkspawn. Defeating the ambush, we can now find the Chasind hidden treasure, the end of the quest. A few gems, some weapons and armor are your reward. Although dorky, I equip Alistair and Scrunchy with a helmet. Heading opposite the camp, we find our way up to this point, a pile of interactable rocks at our feet. You can imagine this place once being a lovely spot to enjoy when the dome was intact and the wilds untainted. As instructed, we pour the ashes on the pile of rocks and, as you might expect, are immediately attacked by Gazarath, a shade demon of high level. You'll meet plenty more shades in your adventures. Crush the demon for daring to exist in Scrunchy's presence and get the loot. Magic restricted boots and a lyrium potion which restores magic to Mage in battle. Useless to our current non-magic party. Your party's inventory does have a carry limit. I sold some junk back at the camp, so I'm not there yet. But in case you need to, you can get rid of items. There's no dropping items on the ground, however. They are simply destroyed, so be careful. Moving to the last area, we take on a final horde of Darkspawn, facing a beefy Hurlock Alpha. Take them down and enter the ruins of the Grey Warden archive. Checking the smashed chest, we find it empty. You'll notice here Dragon Age hides helmets in conversations when it's appropriate, which is nice. This is where we meet Morrigan, sometimes called She's the mysterious goth apostate magi waifu of Dragon Age, wearing as practical clothing as that description would bring to mind. This interaction, however, is a favourite of mine. Your party is suspicious at separate degrees of realism and credulity. You can be civil with her, to the point, or a jerk. I choose civility, my lady.
Well, well, what have we here? Are you a vulture, I wonder? Or merely an intruder, come into these darkspawn-filled wilds of mine in search of easy prey?
Don't answer her. She looks chastened, and that means others may be nearby.
Oh, you fear barbarians will swoop down upon you.
Yes, swooping is bad.
She'll turn us into toads.
You sought something in that chest? Something that is here no longer?
Here no longer? You stole them, didn't you? You're some kind of sneaky witch thief. I'd be careful. First it's, I like you, but then zap. Frog time.
She'll put us all in the pot, she will. Just you watch.
If the pot's warmer than this forest, it'd be a nice change.
There is a certain air of mystique about Morrigan, a danger. She does also call this face handsome and takes the name Scrunchy seriously. Both red flags in my book. She eventually reveals the treaties are no longer there, taken by her mother Flemeth, who she agrees to take you to. She keeps her mother's name a mystery, but either you know already or her name means nothing to you yet, so no point to not saying it. Now we meet Flemeth, someone that wins biggest costume glow up between Dragon Age 1 and 2.
Much as I expected.
Are we supposed to believe you were expecting us?
You are required to do nothing, least of all believe.
If both Flemeth and Morrigan's voices sound familiar, it's because Morrigan is voiced by Claudia Black of Farscape and Stargate SG-1 fame. Flemeth is voiced by Kate Mulgrew, who played Captain Janeway in Star Trek Voyager. Like these, there are several big names in Dragon Age Origins, including Tim Curry, who voiced Al Howe, along with plenty of voice acting greats. Although cryptic and even less trustworthy than Morrigan, Flemeth is helpful. She hands over the treaties readily. She took them some time ago, noting the wards had long since worn off. She kept the treaties safe in her care. She also bids you warn the other Grey Wardens. This blight is far worse than any can imagine. Flemeth ensures Morrigan leads us safely back to our camp in Ostagar. We arrive at dusk, our two main objectives complete. Now back we render aid to those unwell good boys. The Kennel Master offers a reward, but I refuse. The Mage's chest is now also unguarded. Grab the juicy loot inside, mostly mage items but a few health poultices, which is nice. Sell off some stuff we don't need, then take all of Daveth and Sir Jory's gear off. I upgrade my own armour with some of Sir Jory's, then sell the rest. I will be taking no further questions at this point. Now it's time to take part of the joining ritual to become a Grey Warden. We inform Duncan of the two apostate magi that helped us, Morrigan and her mother. Duncan reminds Alistair his duties are to the Grey Wardens now, not the Templars, reminding us the Grey Warden's duty comes first above all else. Duncan ominously tells us joining the Grey Wardens bears a heavy price. A price we may pay now rather than later, and there's no turning back. Sir Jory is uneasy whilst Daveth is eager. And yes, I am well aware these two ripped bodies now on display in the cutscenes does undermine the gravity of the situation somewhat. I will not apologise. The ritual is prepared and we go to the joining. Sir Jory is distressed, stating he has a wife with child. Had he known how dangerous joining might be, he might not have come. He dislikes facing a foe he cannot engage with his blade, an understandable sentiment. Daveth is eager. If he falls here, then so be it. The blight will destroy everything regardless. The joining begins.
So it was that the first Grey Wardens drank of Darkspawn blood and mastered their taint.
Going to drink the blood of those creatures?
As the first Grey Wardens did before us, as we did before you. This is the source of our power and our victory.
Those who survive the joining become immune to the taint. We can sense it in the Darkspawn and use it to slay the Archdemon.
Yes, we must drink of Darkspawn blood, master the taint and slay the Archdemon. The word taint is thrown around quite a lot, so grow up fast. Alistair speaks a few traditional but simple words of the joining and Daveth drinks first. Overwhelmed and unable to master the taint, Daveth falls. Sir Jory panics. Duncan advances. There's no turning back now.
Had I known...
There is no turning back.
No! You ask too much. There is no glory in this.
I am sorry.
Sir Jory falls, slain by Duncan. We are the last. Drinking, we see the archdemon in our nightmares. Awakening, we have survived. Alistair laments the loss of the other two. The harsh realities of this world continue to press in. A battle is soon to take place. We must meet with Duncan and the king, finish up anything you may have left to do, and head on over. Oh yes, I nearly forgot. The reason for taking all of Daveth and Sir Jory's gear, they are gone now, and you cannot get anything you may have equipped on them back. So taking it all and selling it is the greatest way to maximize your profits. Heading over to the table, we join the battle plans being made. Here we meet Logain, sunken eyes, surly, and by the end of this meeting, he'll have your hackles up. He seems to despise and distrust the Grey Wardens as well. The king is overconfident and joyous about the glory about to be enjoyed, a dangerous mix. Alistair and Scrunchy's job will be to light the beacon when signalled, letting Logain know now is the time to charge with his troops into the flank. The plans are set up, the lines are drawn, and we are treated to an epic cutscene. Thunder cracks and the rain pounds down. Soldiers line the barricades, cold, miserable, and scared. The king proudly stands waiting for the Darkspawn. The enemy draws near. The people of Ferelden recoil from their sight. Charging, the Darkspawn's bestial forms swarm ahead. Archers let loose and rain down flaming arrows. The hounds are released, sacrificed to a deadly charge. The call is made for Ferelden, and the people charge to end this blight and the threat to this land. Above, we watch helplessly as flaming boulders crash around us. We must make haste to the tower and await the signal to light the beacon. Rushing forward, fire rains down upon you from the sky as we make our way across the bridge, timing your moves to dodge the incoming fire. We're greeted at the other side by a panicked mage and tower guard. Darkspawn have somehow made their way in and taken over the tower. With no time to lose, you rush forward. The mage joins us to complete our party. Funnily, this is actually the first mage you get in your party if you started as a human noble. There is friendly fire, so be careful when it comes to area of attack spells, as the tutorial down the right will tell you. You can turn these tutorials off in the settings if you'd like, by the way. I also have turned on pause on the start of combat. This helps you analyze a situation at the very start of a battle. Here again to salute Dragon Age's preparedness, if you are a Magi, the Tower Guard and the Soldier will come with you. If you are not, the Magi and the Tower Guard will come with you. Unless you're a human noble who already has the dog, then only the Magi accompanies you. If you didn't start as a human noble with the dog and completed the Kennel Master's quest, you won't actually have the dog here yet. You meet that good boy later on the road. Battle your way through the Darkspawn and head inside. It's time to battle your way up through this occupied tower. The first level is guarded by a few groups of troops. You'll notice Dragon Age always gives you the opportunity to stand back up, dust off and heal up between fights. It helps to keep you from feeling overwhelmed and lets you tackle parts at your own pace. Going through the first level, you'll find the point of ingress for the Darkspawn, a giant hole to the depths below. Very creepy. You'll also find your potential first gift in this area. Gifts are items you can sell or give to an appropriate party member to earn approval points. Some are very specific to a person, others are more general like this bracelet. You can give multiple of the same with diminishing returns. If you're a bit unsure, there's a great list on the wiki fandom about each party member and what they like. We head up now to the second level. I also notice up here the mage has access to the Herbalism skill. In Dragon Age you can create potions, traps and poisons from ingredients gathered throughout the world. Elf root and a flask makes a lesser health poultice. Up ahead we can see two Ballista and a perfect place for a trap. Passing the threshold, the trap is sprung. You can rush over to the Ballista and actually start firing it. Both Ballista do very well against the Darkspawn and can be key to surviving this encounter. Be careful, as friendly fire is possible. Sorry, Scrunchy. Shock and horror, we fight more Darkspawn, then head up to level 3. We continue our assault through the third level. Much in the same, a little bit more loot and a little bit more troops. Then we enter the fourth and final level. Here we come across our biggest foe yet, an Ogre. Hitting like a truck, we scramble to stay up and fight. I activate a sustained ability on the Magi, Flaming Weapons. This immediately dons both Alistair's and Scrunchy's weapon in fire. Wreathed in flames, our weapons deal extra damage. Alistair falls after being grappled, but we are victorious, slaying the beast in an extra special and cinematic fashion. No time to celebrate, we must light the beacon. The beacon is lit. Loghain's forces ready to turn the tide of the battle. Loghain gives the order to sound the retreat. We watch, helpless as Loghain's troops fall back. The king is brutally slain by an ogre, discarded aside without ceremony. A callous end to one wishing for glory. Duncan fights valiantly with his Grey Wardens. Injured, knowing all is lost, he meets the same fate with a Darkspawn axe. Darkspawn swarm the tower. We take several arrows and fall. But our fight isn't over. We awake to see Morrigan, the witch from the Korcari wilds. She explains it was all her mother could do to save Alistair and yourself. The Grey Wardens have been defeated. The king and the armies are gone. The seedy and untrustworthy Loghain quit the field, and you and Alistair are the last two left. A crushing defeat. Flemeth, Morrigan's mother, wishes to speak with you. Promptly starting up old habits, loot the room and meet her and Alistair outside. This is where Flemeth reveals her name, Alistair calling her the Witch of the Wilds, a legendary tale of a powerful and trickster witch living in the wilds. Talking with her, she helps us create a plan. We still have the treaties, we need to gather an army and bring Loghain to justice. Alistair knows Arl Eamon, the Earl of Redcliffe, is a good man, respected, and will most assuredly listen to us and our tales of Loghain's betrayal. Throughout this conversation, you very much get the sense that Flemeth is craftily leading us through to what she wants. You feel as if everything so far has been part of her own plan, and you're just one piece on her chessboard. Flemeth also bids us take Morrigan with us, much to the surprise of Morrigan. She begrudgingly agrees, and Flemeth considers it the price for saving our lives. You've now unlocked 4 major quests. 1. Speak to the Earl of Redcliffe, gain his trust and support of his army. 2. Gain Orzamar's allegiance against the Darkspawn. This is the kingdom of the dwarves, an underground people losing a war against the Darkspawn, rigidly bound to a caste system and tradition. No going above or below your station. That sort of nonsense. 3. Gain the cooperation of the Dalish elves. Elves were once a proud people, cultured and powerful. Now the city elves live impoverished and downtrodden. The Dalish elves, the ones we need to recruit, live in the wilderness, determined to keep their culture alive after many years of oppression and slavery. 4. Seek out the mages of the circle and recruit them into our army. Believing with all these objectives complete, we may just have enough to defeat the Darkspawn and the incoming archdemon. Finally, we set out into the world, to the rather cheery sounding Lothering. Gather your party and venture forth. Here we get our first look at the world map. From here you can travel to locations around Ferelden. Dragon Age isn't fully open world, but you can visit a lot of these grayed out locations soon in whatever order you'd like. On our way we get another cutscene. Loghain tells the people of the court to stand together. He has made himself regent. His daughter is the queen and her husband was the king Loghain abandoned, but it appears only rumours have spread so far. His speech starts out as an elegant mix of talking about standing united, but his tone soon switches to that of a tyrant. You are with me or against me, the absolutes of an iron fist ruler. There is clear resistance and murmuring to his words. Ban Tegan, a man in the crowd, seems the most resistant, telling the queen her father risks civil war. Just before entering Lothering, you are accosted by highwaymen, taking advantage of the lack of law enforcement and people fleeing the Blight. You can intimidate them, pay them, or ensure they never harass anyone again. I chose the latter, bandit scum. A Templar is amongst the carnage of the bandits. On them is a note and a locket. A quest suggests we search Lothering for someone who may want to know about this Templar and their demise. We enter a beleaguered village filled with refugees. A Templar lets us know the inn and temple are full. There's no more room here in Lothering. The people of this land are fleeing the Blight, desperate for safety and food. You promptly get dragged into an argument. A merchant is charging huge markups, profiteering from dire times. You can side entirely with the woman complaining, the merchant, or you can make a compromise, ensuring the merchant gets some coin but lowers his prices to something reasonable. With some persuading, he begrudgingly agrees. In conversations and around the world, your travelling companions will interject with their opinions and have conversations with each other. Morrigan, for instance, is very reluctant to help anyone that can't forward her own goals, and has a survival of the fittest attitude. A true neutral character.
So let's talk about your mother for a moment.
I'd rather talk about your mother.
Well, there's nothing to talk about. And besides, isn't your mother a scary witch who lives in the middle of a forest?
Her and Alistair will have head-butting conversations as you walk around. You can also find here and throughout the world these job boards or chantry boards. They'll have a few side quests for you to complete. They're usually simple little things, take down some bandits, etc. A good source of coin and usually completable out and about while you're on other quests. Moving on, a young lad stands at the bridge, asking about his mother. She told him to flee the farm when men came. She said she'd be right behind him. You can probably fill in the rest for yourself. I give this kid a silver to get some food, and although you don't get a quest now, you'll get one a little later. It's another thing I like Dragon Age for. This distinctly red-headed kid with his troubles. When you get a task to find a red-headed woman later who's missing, you'll remember that kid and make the connection. There are 2 people over the bridge, each with a quest, only completable if you have the right skills or the items to hand. One wants traps made, the other health poultices. You can talk to various people around, such as this chap simply called Helpful Refugee. He warns of surly soldiers inside the tavern. There's also 2 men standing outside the tavern, perpetually sharing gossip. You can learn a few bits of information by standing by. Dragon Age does a really good job with environmental storytelling, rewarding those that peek around and listen. From these 2 men you can learn Logain is lying about the Grey Wardens, claiming they betrayed the king and it's all Logain could do to escape. You'll also learn that there's goings on at the Circle of Magi's tower, something you actually experience if you start as a Magi yourself. Heading inside, we are accosted by Logain's men. A sister of the Chantry tries to intervene, but Logain's men want nothing but a fight, ordering the sister slain for interfering and us into custody. With your party and the sister helping, you make quick work of them, and the commander surrenders. Slay him or have him send a message to Logain. I chose to send a message. We know what really happened at Ostagar. The sister, Leliana, offers to join your party. She claims to have visions from the Maker, the Chantry's god. The visions told her we are destined to stop the Blight, and she must help us. This is the first companion you can outright reject. You can deny her here and later on when she tries again and leave without her. I, however, accepted her offer of help. With Leliana, we now have an overfull party. I must choose my lineup. I leave the good boy Sir Reginald back at camp because he deserves to be safe. Like Leliana, companions from here on out can be rejected or simply not recruited. The choice is yours. On a non-human noble start, you can even refuse to recruit or help the dog, though shame on any who do. Morrigan and Alistair are the only 2 forced companions you have. It's something great Dragon Age Origins does, giving you the choice to set up your party the way you want it. It allows you to adapt to how you want to play your character and who you want to be surrounded by. You can also romance 4 of the companions. The romanceable ones' preferences are fixed. You can't romance Alistair as a male warden and vice versa for Morrigan, without mods. Leliana and Zevran, a companion you meet later on, are happy with either. Moving on in the tavern, we meet this fella. He's a merchant with a quest, the last of the 3 crafting missions. He requires poison. For what? He doesn't say. Heading out to explore Lothering a little more, you can come across Sten here. He is a Kunari and a recruitable companion. He's stoic but arrogant in Kunari supremacy, a disciplined individual and has a strong code of ethics. He's also sexist, believing no woman belongs on a battlefield. Troublesome views he'll express later on, but if you're a female warden, he'll let you know pretty much straight away. Sten has slain an entire family, and for his heinous crime he's left out for the Darkspawn or to starve. Morrigan dislikes seeing someone so proud and strong locked away. Leliana believes no one should be left to that fate, regardless of their crimes. It's up to you, the Warden, to decide his fate. To recruit him, you can offer his demise at the hand of the Darkspawn, defending against the Blight, a prospect he finds better than rotting in a cage. We head back into town to the temple to get the key for his cage. Before we enter the temple, we can talk to a man that seems to do everything with his dials at 11.
Evil will cover the world like a plague of locusts!
You can leave him to scream or learn his story and convince or intimidate him to stop scaring the people. Now head into the temple. Firstly, you can talk to this chap here, someone Alistair knows. Sir Donal is on a vital mission. Al Eamon, the man we intend to visit in Redcliffe and gain the support of, is sick, falling more ill day by day. He and his men are out seeking the Urn of Sacred Ashes, believing this artifact is the only chance of survival for the Arl. The information will deepen your desire to get to Redcliffe as soon as possible to investigate. Additionally, you can turn in the note and locket you found on the Templar earlier. In Dragon Age, you do find yourself giving out bad news quite a lot. It can weigh heavy on your heart. Meet with the Reverend Mother to request Sten be given into your charge. It definitely helps to already have Leliana for this conversation. Without her and the right skills on your side, you may be unable to convince the Reverend Mother, simply losing Sten as a potential party member. Return with the key to Sten's cage and take him into your custody. He's a strong warrior with a double-handed blade. The hardest choices you often have to make in Dragon Age is your party. Do you balance it, or simply take whoever you like the most? It can be a tough choice. Side note, Korcari have horns, but Sten was born without any. It was due to graphical issues at the time why he doesn't have any. A fun little fact for you. Keeping my party as is, I move out to explore the area. The 3 bandit groups from the Chantry board quest are nearby. They can give you a run for your money if you're not careful. With the 3 groups slain, you can return for your reward. However, it's usually wise and less time-consuming to explore an area fully before heading back. Getting close to this group of refugees outside of town, you will be ambushed. Criminal or not, they are starving and want the bounty on your heads set by Loghain. You cannot talk your way out of this. They simply attack, and you must sadly defeat a group of starving, scared people. I won't show these last enemies I fight on screen, as they're giant spiders, but they're on the map up here. It's a place to get toxic extract needed for the poison craft quest. Returning to town, you can collect your 3 gold reward for the bandits. 2 more jobs magically appear on the board for you. One to deal with some bears nearby, the other to search for the mother of the red-headed boy we talked to earlier. You'll find her lying still, surrounded by wolves. These wolves nearly take me down, but Scrunchy holds the line. You take her locket as proof to bring back. Nearby are the bears. These 2 quests showcase something I talked about earlier when it came to Rigby and the campfire. There it was reasonable that we didn't find the hidden storage under a campfire, but we were just in this area. According to the notes, these bears have been around for a while, and the red-headed boy's mother should have been here already. I get it's a way to reuse areas and extend playtime, but sometimes it's very obviously hastily done. Head back and collect your rewards. Again, be aware, Lothering will fall after you complete one of the 4 main quests you currently have, so ensure you do everything you want to here sooner rather than later. By now you may have reached level 7, like I have. At level 7 and 14 you unlock the ability to choose a specialization. These are subclasses to further enhance your character's abilities. It's a bit of a weird one, but you actually need to unlock the specialization so then you can spend a point in that specialization to then properly learn it. I think I made that make sense. Maybe. Regardless, they're locked for now, so I can't spend the point. Let's move on. There's also no abilities I actually want to unlock for my tank-heavy build. Fortuitously, you can just leave the points for later. Now, finally, it's time to leave Lothering. But first, we need to meet 2 very special people. They're under attack by Darkspawn. Save the 2 and you'll be politely thanked. This is Bodan Fedic and his boy Sandal. He'll make his excuses so you can leave, but we'll see them very soon. Later on, we have terrible dreams of the Darkspawn horde, the horrors of their evil and the archdemon. They cut into your mind while you sleep. Awakening, Alistair explains it's normal. We Grey Wardens can sense the Archdemon's communications. You'll learn to block it out. Now, we are finally at our party's camp. This is a little hub spot for you to talk to your party members. Nearby, Bodan and his boy have stopped by. He offers his services as a merchant, and his boy as an enchanter. Sandal is very special. A bit simple, as Bodan puts it, but a savant when it comes to enchanting.
Enchantment!
Both are fantastic and constant companions to your camp as you venture forth. Bodan's store is stocked full of goodies. From specific party member gifts, these are actually all DLC items, and it's actually a little weird when you think about it that he has all these specific gifts for party members. Crafting items, and most importantly, tomes. Tomes are one-use items. They can give such things as a perk point, for instance. Apparently once read, you eat the book or something, I don't know. He also has the Templar Specialization book. This is how you unlock specializations, either buying or finding a book, or earning it as a reward for a quest. He also has a backpack to buy. Buying it automatically increases your party carry weight. Nearby is a chap that gives you a DLC quest that'll appear on the world map once you talk to him. Leaving the camp here, we can explore the world, visit various locations and get underway on our journey to ridding this land of the blight. As you travel, you can come across random encounters. Each new map area has its own story to tell, filled with the people of Ferelden and their struggles. The world is unsafe and in turmoil. You will be tested both physically and mentally. Let your heart guide the way in this darkness, for good or for evil. The world of Dragon Age is now at your disposal, and there's so many more adventures to have out there. The Magi's Tower is in peril. The Isle of Redcliffe needs your help. Corruption is seeping in, destroying the land. You will journey to the Fade and back, face terrors and decisions that will make or break many people of this land. You are the Grey Wardens of legend, sworn to fight the Blight and rid the land of corruption. Yes, Dragon Age Origins has its problems. The AI can be a little bit funky at times, the graphics definitely shows their age, the combat can be a little cumbersome at times, and if you're unprepared or not willing to micromanage every second of combat, it can prove to be tough at times. Not that that's a bad thing necessarily, it can just be unexpected to new RPG players. But worst of all, having to patch the game for it to not crash is slack at best. But after all that is said, I still absolutely love the game. It holds a special place in my heart. The story is everything. The characters, the people of Ferelden. It's what makes Dragon Age so beloved by so many. The replayability is fantastic. You have so many choices to make as a Grey Warden. So many lives hang in the balance and lay heavy on your shoulders. You, along with your cobbled together party, must be the heroes Ferelden needs. Please let me know in the comments if you've played it. Who were your favourite companions and who is your go-to romance? Share with me and others if you please the joy of this game. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you can, please subscribe and like the video as well. It all really helps out. Goodbye for now and always remember, for Ferelden.